Good day, engineering thinkers. Welcome to the show. This is Engineering Thinking by IK, and I'm your host, Sean. We're delighted to have you with us today. This show, the purpose is simple. We want to inspire and educate you to think and act like an engineer. Whether you're an engineer in training or you're just interested in the field, we have a home here just for you. Today, we have an incredible guest with us. He's someone that graduated from Purdue University in the United States in engineering and economics. He then completed his MBA at the University of Malaya before joining Motorola as an R&D engineer, after which he would go to found many startup businesses, including Aiden Corporation and Arden Education Consultants. And his businesses involve technology, workflow processes, and productivity. He's now the CEO and founder of Pandai Education Sendirian Berhad, an application and business that is dedicated to helping students learn better. In fact, the Pandai app itself helps to improve student performance. Mr. Khairul Anwar, thank you very much for joining us on our show today.
Okay, thank you very much, Sean. Happy to be here.
Okay, well, engineering thinkers, as you know, we always begin this show with the first segment, which is the journey. Now, we believe that all of the engineers that come through this program, and also all of you here, are heroes, are superheroes that will make this world a better place. And like all good superheroes, we always examine the origin story. Okay, and so today we're going to examine Mr. Khairul's origin story as an engineering hero. So Mr. Khairul, perhaps you can share with us what inspired you, or who inspired you to become an engineer?
All right. Okay, when I was young, to be honest, I did not have a role model who was an engineer then, and it was quite late in my secondary school that I got to know that I wanted to be an engineer. Obviously, in primary school, I look back at my records, right? My ambition changed from one year to another. Obviously, we're young, right? If I recall correctly, they were becoming a policeman, becoming a teacher. There was one year where I put stuntman as my ambition when I was primary school, and my parents were not engineers. My dad works at a bank at the time, and my mom was a school teacher. So none of them were engineer. And being the first of 5 siblings, I did not have older sibling that I can look up to or ask for suggestion or opinions and all that. But luckily for me, my mother was a very proactive school teacher, right? So she places education something very important in the family, right? So because of that, I had it's a little bit unfair. I had a teacher in the house, right? Because of that, I did very well in school. So I always excel in math, in science. So I got actually a lot of chance to join like math competition, science competition, like district level, state level, and at the national level as well. So I was actually quite a shy boy because I'm first of 5 siblings. I did not have much friends in the primary school, especially in the first few years of secondary school as well. So I spent most of my time playing at home. And one of the things that I like to do is, apart from breaking up toys and all this, is building something which is called the Rube Goldberg machine. Are you familiar with it?
Right.
It's like you arrange stuff so that when you topple one stuff and then
it sets the whole machine in motion.
The whole thing in motion, right?
Yeah.
Started very simple, something like a series of books and triggers like a ball rolling and set off another motion, right? And then it became quite complex, right? From the secondary floor, triggering different things down the stairs until the ground floor and all that, right? Even involved some of my younger siblings to help ourselves, especially in resetting the whole thing, right? That's the difficult part. But I had a lot of time playing with all kinds of things, seeing how they react and all that. My mom was a secondary school teacher. So when I was in secondary school, when I was Form 1 to Form 3, I was at her school. And because of that, she actually was the one who exposed me to some of the possibilities, some of the opportunities out there, right? And because she knew me very well, and she suggested that I, explore engineering, right? And when I was in Form 4 and Form 5, because of my result in PMR, I got into a boarding school, very good technical boarding school that put more emphasis in the sciences or the math, right? And I did very well, so I got the opportunity to pursue engineering. And for my exam, I did quite well actually. All 10 subjects, even the elective ones, got A1. So was in the media and all that as well. So because of that, I got the opportunity to choose, in a way, what I really wanted to do. My mom, her background is actually accountancy, so she taught accounting and some other subjects in school. But she knew that I'm more suitable in the engineering space, and I decided to take up mechanical engineering. So I did mechanical engineering in Purdue, and after my first year, I realized that I still had capacity to learn other stuff. That's why I decided to take economics in my second year onwards and graduated with both engineering and economics.
I see. So that's interesting. In your childhood, you loved making Rube Goldberg machines. So you had the sense of discovery, right? You were curious about how stuff worked and how things reacted. It's kind of like basically a Rube Goldberg machine is like a very complex, complicated domino effect, essentially. Yeah, a lot of steps in between. But what I want to ask you is something you just mentioned, which is your time in Purdue. So you said that your mother obviously was a big influence, right? Big inspiration, I could say even. And she had a background in accountancy, and you felt like you had extra bandwidth in your mind to pursue engineering and economics. Can you share with our viewers and listeners what the experience was like taking double degree essentially?
Okay. Engineering alone was difficult. Purdue is also quite notorious in terms of creating very difficult exams, especially in physics and some other subjects as well. But I realized that at the time that I wanted to explore other stuff, and like you said, I was actually quite a curious kid at the time, like to explore other things as well. And in Purdue, because it's such an old university, and it has a lot of prestige that revolves around engineering as well. Like it's a huge campus. In fact, the first and the last man on the moon actually graduated from Purdue. It has a very good engineering school program, and it has its own airport because of all the aerospace program and all that. So I got to exposed to a lot of engineering stuff, engineering projects and all that. But I realized that I wanted to explore something more. And I started taking some electives. I think the first few classes were microeconomics, macroeconomics, and then money banking and things like that, right? Learning how money works and things like that. I realized that this is interesting as well, and decided to take a few more courses, and then it became the whole thing. And at the end, I graduated. So actually, apart from learning engineering economics, I also dive into some coding as well. At first, I just wanted to know, it was actually the early days of the web. It was 20 years ago, right? When I was in the States. So 25 years ago. So I started learning, basic HTML and things like that. And it was very, very interesting to see, for me personally at the time, to see, whatever I code gets published, right, on the web, and then my friends could see, right? Okay, obviously at the time it was very, very different, the old style website, right, with marquee and text scrolling and things like that. But then, because I was interested in exploring this, I became one of the webmasters at the university. One of them was not the only one. It was a huge team. I managed one of the site for the international students, right? But like I said, it was an old school website. Actually, from time to time, it's something that I'm very proud of still. From time to time, actually, I go on the Wayback Machine, website to go back to the website, to visit the website, which is no longer accessible now, but to see, the thing that I made 25 years ago. And obviously, I would use, old school software like Macromedia Flash Macromedia, Dreamweaver, and things like that, which is no longer in use now. And it's something interesting to see whatever I input into the machine, the computer, right, into the server, gets published, and the other students could see, right? So something that interests me as well, even though I did not learn, coding, formally, but it's something that I dive into as well. So then I got the opportunity to become one of the webmasters.
So you had that curiosity from when you were young to explore how stuff works.
Yeah.
So that's very engineering minded, isn't it?
Yeah,
because
I would say so.
because you took your engineering degree obviously, and then you took electives in basically economic modeling, essentially. That's kind of like how economies work, how money works, right? Money supply and all that. And then you also delved into coding, which is how computing works. So I think from when you were young, and I think our listeners can pick up that you had that sense of discovery, and that's what sort of guided you to take this double degree.
Yeah. I just want to say, even though we're talking about engineering now, but I think like during the university life, right? Yeah. It's very important for students to explore a lot of different things, right? And there's a lot of benefit of being in university because once you get into the working life, it's hard for you to get all, which is one, of course, you don't have much time, and then you have to spend all money. Now, if I want to play futsal, I have to pay. If I want to go to gym, I have to pay. If I want to check out a book, I have to pay, right? I want to go into seminar, I want to join a book club, I want to go hiking, I have to pay, right? I want to try something, a hackathon, I have to pay, right? Because I'm an adult, right? Working adult. Whereas in university, many of these things are free. You can check out books for free, you can join the seminar, there's a robotic, you want to learn cooking club or anything, right? Or go hiking with, it's free or almost free, right, in university, right? Even if you want to use the gym or the library or other facilities, right? So I would say to those of you who are still in university or getting into university, try to use the opportunity to explore as many things as well. I was a nerd back then, I was a very shy boy, but still I tried to, expose myself to different things because once you get into your career, you don't have much time, and most of the time, then you have to pay for it. Now, if I want a gym or want to go to the gym, it's very expensive, right? Gym membership and all this, and other stuff as well, right? So, explore yourself, and then you can discover what you're more into, right? Yes, we're talking about engineering, but you can explore other things as well. And now, people are talking about multidisciplinary, right, capabilities as well. So, yeah, go and explore.
That's fantastic advice from Mr. Khairul. So use the resources that are available to you.
Yeah.
And like Mr. Khairul said, once you enter the workforce, the opportunity, of course, is still there, but it becomes more difficult because then you have your work obligations, you have your family obligations, and that can affect and impact your ability to learn. So while you're in university or college, why not make the most out of it, right? And so now, Mr. Khairul, we want to ask you also about any challenges you faced doing basically a double degree, right? Like, how did you find the coursework, and what motivated you to stay on the path of engineering? Because we find that this is happening actually in the United States. Engineering graduates are sort of leaving the field. Either they're dropping out of the course, or once they graduate, they don't actually, pursue anything else related to engineering. So what kept you going, basically?
It's happening here in Malaysia as well, right? And elsewhere as well, not only in the US. People are leaving, moving away from STEM-related subjects, engineering and others, into other, the easier subjects, right? That they perceive to be easier, or but at the time for me, even though it was still difficult, completing engineering at the time, but I think I had a lot of fun in many of the classes. I took, the typical subjects, obviously all the sciences like physics, chemistry and all that, and then I took, mechanics, dynamics, fluid, thermodynamics and things like that, calculuses as well, but apart from math, which is quite tedious and very difficult sometimes to understand why I should learn, differential equation or linear algebra and things like that. But for most other subjects, you can actually see why it is important, and from the assignments and the projects that I got involved in. There were very interesting projects that I got involved in, even something as simple as designing a toothbrush, I can still recall. I forgot which class was that. I had to design a toothbrush. Maybe it has to be more, I don't know, suitable for, in terms of the shape or things like that. But one of the interesting projects also is during my internship, and it's I was working with a company called Indie Robotics that dive into robotic stuff. And for my final year project, we were assigned, the students in my university were assigned, a group of us were assigned to participate in something called the DARPA Grand Challenge. So DARPA stands for the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. So DARPA is a huge agency that deals with a lot of advanced projects for the defense, and they deal with the DoD, Department of Defense of the United States, right? So that challenge, this was in 2004, that challenge was to create an unmanned vehicle, like autonomous vehicle. It was called driverless or unmanned at the time, to navigate, off-road terrain, for 150 miles. To create a vehicle from scratch, right? So we didn't actually modify an existing car. We had to build everything from scratch. So even the chassis, we had to weld, metal and all this. And then we had to, I remember we bought an old engine and then some tractor tires because we wanted it to be big. It's bigger. The end result was bigger than a typical car. It was hideous, to be honest. It was just frames and it was hideous, but it moved. And then I remember we designed the engineering with rack and pinion. I was in charge of the sensors and some of the electrical wiring. So I had to, because I didn't have electrical engineering background, and I was in charge of the electrical stuff, I had to learn from this Professor Barrett from the electrical engineering side of things. Who did not teach me actually, but he ended up giving me like a recommendation at the end. But I had to learn some electrical stuff just for that project. But it was interesting. A group of us, international students, came up with a vehicle to participate in that challenge. But obviously, in the end, it was for $1 million prize money. $1 million prize money. It was a national thing. But at the end, our vehicle didn't really do well, but we were not the only one. All the participants from the whole country, from other universities and other agencies, actually couldn't finish the 150 miles with the technology back then and our limited capability. So the best one actually did like 7 miles. No one did the 150 miles actually. So the best one did 7 miles. But the next year, in 2005, when I was graduating, in 2005, there was actually, out of all the participants, all of them actually made 100 over miles, finish it, except for only 2. So you can see how actually even 1 year, within the space of 1 year, difference in technology and the capability and the learning side.
Incredible. So that's an amazing journey. Actually, the amazing part of that journey is not the fact that the next year they had more vehicles. It's that you had the drive to actually intern. So you sought out opportunities. You took the initiative to network and expand your horizons. And like you were saying, electrical engineering was not your forte. But you sought outside help to learn and to experiment with something that you're not familiar with. And I think it's very cool that you ended up making that vehicle anyway. Hideous as it may be, engineering is about trying to find practical solutions, right? Design comes later. We try to find the function first. So that's very interesting, actually. And I'm glad, Mr. Khairul, you shared your time with Indie Robotics. So engineering thinkers, keep all that in mind. And remember, use the resources available to you now. Don't take it for granted. And that will conclude the first segment, the journey. And in the next segment, the highlight, we're going to explore more of Mr. Khairul's professional career. Stay with us. Thank you. Engineering thinkers, welcome back to the program. We're now in the second segment of our program for today, which is the highlight. And this is where we're going to explore Mr. Khairul's early career and then see the transformation from engineer to entrepreneur. So it's going to be a very exciting segment, this program. Make sure you stay with us. So Mr. Khairul, after your time in Purdue and Indie Robotics, you then joined Motorola as an R&D engineer. Can you share a little bit of your experience in your time there?
All right. Yes, my first ever job was at Motorola as an R&D engineer. And I was assigned in a mechanical engineering team. Obviously, Motorola has thousands of employees, but they break the employees into the engineers into like different teams, small teams. Like there were only 5 or 6 of us in the mechanical engineering team. And what's interesting is that when I joined, I got to work in a special project that is about designing a whole new communication device for the FBI. The Federal Bureau of Investigation in the US, right? So this is not like PNC stuff or anything like that. It's public knowledge. So we were tasked to design a new communication device for the FBI, and it was it was a handheld device, like a walkie-talkie kind of thing. And what's interesting is that the 5 and 6 mechanical engineers work together with around 5 or 6, electrical engineers, and then some software engineers, and then some designers. So when a project like this starts, the designers will first come up with a sketch of the device, right? So it was hand-drawn, and then once they finalize the shape of the device, and then they come up with the the color, the texture, and things like that. But it's still a solid block of device, right? With nothing inside yet. And then they would pass the design to us at mechanical engineering team, and then it's up to us how to slice the design, into different parts, right? So that we can put in all the needed parts, right? And then when we, divide the screen, the keyboards, the screws, and all the things inside, then we come up with the shape of the PCB, which is the circuit board, right?
Right.
And then once we get the shape of the circuit board, then when we pass to the electrical engineering team, to place the components and to design the circuits and all that on the design that the mechanical engineer started. And then while everything is going on, the software team will come up with the software side of things, right? So being in the mechanical engineering team, it was very, very fun as well, because I got to work on this project where I get to actually decide. How to place some things, what material to use, how the components will work, and things like that. And obviously, there are a lot of strict requirements on the device, right? For example, it has to be water resistant, it has to be submersible, it has to be able to withstand, a drop from, say, I forgot, maybe 10 or 20 stories high building and things like that. So it's up to each of us, the engineers, to decide, how best to incorporate, all the elements inside the walkie-talkie. So it's very, very interesting. And even though I came from, a mechanical engineering background, I got involved in other sides of engineering as well. Like, for example, materials. Like I get to explore like whether I should use rubber or PVC or metal or poron pad or poron foam or things like that. And then I got to be involved in testing and things like that as well. So it's up to me. For example, if I need to secure like 2 parts together, it's up to me whether I want to use a string or spring, a latch, a clip, a screw, or anything else. Right? Obviously, I can refer to some of the best practices, many of the inventions already in Motorola, right? All the patents and all the other projects I've done. But it's up to me also how I want to incorporate. And then once I decide, okay, I want to use this type of clip in order to secure these 2 together, right? After going to all the simulation, all the testing, it works, in the computer, and then I translate into the real thing, right? But it's up to me to decide which material that I need to use. So I would deal with different kind of vendors as well. I remember visiting factories, and the vendors would come over from other countries and locally as well. They would say, okay, for this one you could use this material. Another vendor would say, okay, use my material. But obviously there are other constraints as well, like pricing, the cost, the lead time to get the parts, the minimum order quantity.
That's a big one, the costing, isn't it?
The costing, yeah. And then the MOQ as well, right? For example, if the minimum order quantity is like 5,000. I just need a few to test first, right? Things like that. So, creating stuff, yes, you want to make the best successful product, but there are always constraints, right? Time constraint, resources in terms of costing and things like that. So it's up to an engineer like us to decide to balance, meeting how well we want to meet a particular spec with the constraints that we have. So, but I had fun. We completed a project successfully, and then after completing that project, I got to work with on another project, which is like a walkie-talkie, but in the car of I think it was the police in the US. So the walkie-talkie will be connected to the car. So it's a different device order, different project altogether, but the process is very, very similar. Obviously, the constraint, the requirements are different. And then my manager actually chose me to go to the US to discuss with the customers as well, the buyer side, right? Some of the requirements on them, some of the discovery, the use case, and talking to the users as well. So it was a very interesting time. And at Motorola, because it was my first job, it was my first experience working in an engineering company, right? And then at the same time, it was my first time dealing with my colleagues and my manager as well, right? My manager, his name was Jeffrey, and then he had another senior manager, older guy. His name was Th Kwa. So I look up to them, like because they were the first ever managers that I reported to, right? And actually, I never told them outright, but I mimic some of the managerial style based on what I learned from them as well, because those was the first few years in my career, right? So, but I had fun in Motorola as well.
Fantastic. What an incredible story from Mr. Khairul. Now, obviously, Mr. Khairul had a very positive experience in Motorola. Actually, what was interesting is the amount of freedom you got to experiment, to invent, to create something useful, to create something important, actually, a communication device. I think everyone can relate, whether it's for the FBI or not, right? So, and in fact, the fact that you paid so much attention to not just the function, but also the materials engineering, that's another big point, I think, that we shouldn't miss out. All the different details actually forms a larger part of something truly excellent. So that's very important. Make sure you remember, like, it's all in the details. It's all in the small things. And also making sure that you make the most of your time, like Mr. Khairul did, learning from his mentors, learning from his seniors. So there's a good chance for you to pick up on that as well. Now, for the benefit of our engineering thinkers, I'm going to ask Mr. Khairul something quite exciting now, because after Mr. Khairul's clearly very fun time at Motorola, he decided to become an entrepreneur, to become a business owner. He would then go on to found Aiden Corporation and Ardent Education Consultants, Sdn Bhd as well. So I want to ask Mr. Khairul, why did he make the switch? Because it's such a unique switch to go from a mechanical engineering team straight to entrepreneurship. So the first question is, Mr. Khairul, why did you do it?
All right.
Right.
All right. I have always been interested in entrepreneurship as well. But before founding those companies I mentioned, I have never, incorporated a proper company. I did, sell stuff online when I was in Purdue, right? I remember I sold books on Amazon and things like that. And then I did some stuff on eBay. I did some trading here and there. But they were not proper businesses. It was just to, get extra income and things like that. And then when I was in Motorola Penang at the time as an R&D engineer, I was still single at the time. And still exploring, some of the things that I could do. And then, towards the end of my second year in Motorola, we had a school reunion among my secondary school friends. So this was not a proper reunion. It was just a get together at a restaurant. It was not like a reunion at a hotel with an agenda. And
Right,
all that.
yeah,
We
yeah.
just, okay, let's meet up together at a certain time, right? So it was planned to be held at Surak LCC at the fourth floor. I think it was an Arabic or Indian restaurant. I think it's no longer there now. And this was at the end of 2007. At the end of 2007, I was 2 years into my my career as an engineer in Motorola. And in my school, there were, I think, close to 500 students in my batch, like 480 or 490 students. Right. But because this was a long time ago, prior to WhatsApp being available and all that, it was hard for us to communicate about the reunion. And then only 4 of us actually showed up. 4 of us showed up. Okay, it was for lunch.
Right.
So we had lunch. So I remember, we were talking about, our experience at our working place, right? Because it had been quite some time that we last met.
Yeah.
And then we were talking over lunch, and it was not to discuss any project or any venture together. It was just to catch up, right? And then after we finished our lunch, I think the table was clear already at the time. And then we were asking about, okay, what else, were you doing? What else are you doing now and all this? And then suddenly each of them shared that they were also doing some part-time gig, like selling stuff or freelancing here and there and all that. Yeah. For example, this guy, his name is Suhaimi. He actually graduated from MIT, and he was working at Khazanah. So even though he worked in Khazanah, but every time he get invited to do a talk at a school, he would take a 1 day off, let's say fly to, I don't know, Kuching, give a 1 day talk to a school, and then next day we go to work as usual. Another guy, his name is Akmal, he graduated from the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in New York. He did software engineering there. And even though he was working in Intel and Shell, he was still freelancing on doing some side project and all that. And then the fourth person also the same, doing some stuff on the side and all that. And then we realized that, oh, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. And I shared what I'm doing, right? And then I said, okay, let's do something together. Then it was just an impromptu idea, like, okay, let's do something together. Okay, let's do something together. So within 3 days, all 4 of us quit our jobs. Within 3 days, all 4 of us quit our jobs and decided, okay, let's do something together. So for the first time in our lives, right, even though some of them were doing some side gig, all of us had never registered a proper company before. So for the first time in our life, we registered our first ever Sdn Bhd company, private limited company. Right. And then, it was called Aidan Corporation, by the way, Aidan Corporation, and the 4 of us own it equally, 25% each, right? And then we realized, okay, I forgot whose idea was it. Somebody said like, okay, we have Aidan Corporation now, let's make this the holding company, the parent company. Let's register a subsidiary, right? And okay, we registered an IT company. It's called Aidan Technologies, which is owned 100% by the parent company, and the parent company is owned by the 4 of us equally.
Right, yeah.
And then, because we also had passion in education, and then we realized we needed an education company. We registered a third education company. It's all in the same day, all in the same day. And then to make it worse, we were so naive at the time, we registered a fourth entity on the same day. So 4 senior company, 4 private limited company on the same day were registered. So we had equal share of the parent company, and then parent company owned the subsidiaries. And at the time, we had not only no customers or no money and things like that, we had no offerings yet. We were not really sure what kind of product or service, what kind of pricing, what kind of customers and all that. And we didn't come from a well-off family background. So and we didn't have a lot of money, but we decided, okay, let's give it a go and let's try to create something. So that's the story how the Aidan Group actually started. And to cut the story short, obviously we didn't need all 4 companies, but for some reason they grew, and the IT company which started with the first ever brochure for Aidan Technology is build a website for 500 ringgit. 500 ringgit, 500,000 ringgit or anything like that. 500 ringgit only. Things that now school kids can do actually, or AI can do within minutes, right? But at the time we could afford to charge 500 ringgit. Obviously we didn't get big companies or even SME. We get individual clients to pay us 500 ringgit, and I would code stuff, become the project manager and all that. And then the IT company has grown, obviously over 10 year, period of 10 years, it's now grown to close to 100 people now with a proper software house. Now obviously handle bigger projects, right?
Right, of course, yeah.
Government, universities, banks and things like that. But it started off with the 500 ringgit worth of websites. And we did everything on our own. We hired the first ever staff in our third year. So the first 2 or almost 3 years, we did everything ourselves, the 4 of us. The same actually applies for the education company as well. We started off by offering ourselves to go to school and do some short program in schools, and school would pay us like 100 ringgit or 200 ringgit for a whole day program, which is not worthwhile, to be honest. But we did it anyway. We're trying to sell our US certificate, saying, oh, we got a degree in the US because that we can do some math or science program or STEM-related programs, right? But that turns out to become, bigger and bigger. Similarly, we hired the first staff, I think, in the third year or so, and then it grew. Now it's grown quite considerable. I think now, last year alone, we had like 120,000 paying students for that company, not for Pandai, for that company. It's paper-based stuff, face-to-face stuff, paper-based stuff. So it's not like an app or tech stuff. But basically, in short, the whole IDEN group has grown from just a simple idea, being naive, registering for private limited companies, to what it is now. Obviously, it took a long time, but yeah.
So you had to have the initial courage for all 4 of you to quit your jobs, though, because at that point you were all professional engineers or professionals at your fields.
Yeah.
So what was going through your mind then when you, like I said, made that swap to become a business owner? What was going through your mind? Were you really worried? Were you really concerned for the future? Were you anxious?
To be honest, at the time, I was not really worried. I became worried when I started talking to my friends. At the time, I was not worried. Among the 4 of us, maybe we were a bit of a risk taker individually. And at the time, we were still single as well. We're not married. We don't have much responsibility. We're staying at our parents' place at the time, each of us. So anything happened, we just go at home. There's always food at home, and So we didn't really think that it was such a huge risk to take on. Okay. But of course, when we started talking to our friends, they said, oh, God, you're crazy. Why are you quitting this, quitting your engineering job? Why are you quitting Khazanah? Why are you quitting Intel? Things like that.
Yeah.
And we realized that, okay, if anything happens, we just find another job. We were quite confident in, looking at finding other opportunities. So we said, let's give it a go. And to be honest, the 4 of us were not that close in school. It's just that the 4 of us showed up.
Right. Yeah.
We're not taking the same. We're not in the same class. We do not hang out with each other much. But I think right place, right time.
So let's talk about Mr. Khairul. Now that we established sort of where Aiden Corporation came from and Ardent came from, right? So now we're going to look at the trajectory that led you to want to create Pandai, which is where you're at the moment now. Mr. Khairul is CEO and founder of Pandai Education Sdn Berhad. And so how did you get from initially with your friends creating the Aiden group of companies, and then what set you off to begin the journey of the Pandai education journey?
After growing, the companies that we started out with for quite some time, right? Roughly around 10 years or so, we had a lot more free time. By then, each of the company has grown quite considerably, and we had a GM at each of the subsidiary. And actually, since then, we had other subsidiaries under the whole group. And the managers, the team were actually doing a much better job than each of us individually. So by then we could afford to explore other things, right? We would travel a little bit more. We would go to events, networking events, meet up friends and all this. And by then we were actually we started to invest in other new businesses. And by then, most of the new businesses were startups. When we first started our Eden group, right, startup weren't really a thing yet. So even the word startup was not that common yet, right? We would call ourselves our director of the company and things like that, right? This was a long time ago, right? Or even the government agency that would help start up, like Magic and Meranti and some other agencies now were not, founded yet at the time. And when we first started, but then. After 10 years or so, doing business, the landscape has changed a lot. And we were toying around with starting something new. But then, along the way, during building the Ident Group and all that, we actually started out some of new initiatives also. But we found some employees, our existing employees, were good in some areas. For example, we had Ident Technologies, which is a proper software house and all that. But there was the guy who was into cybersecurity, which we didn't really offer. So we started a senior umbrella company just for that guy to run the show, right? But then it didn't take off. Similarly, we had a few more tries with the education side. Similar, we had a guy who who was into all this matching between parents and tutors. We created a startup to let that guy to run the show, but it didn't take off as well. Okay. And then similarly with a few other tries. These were good staff who had some entrepreneurial skills, were good managers, but for some reason those new companies didn't really go anywhere. So we decided if we want to start something new, we had to do it ourselves. We realized that some of these good managers were good managers. They really good at executing. If the SOPs are already in place, they were good at going to the processes if it's already defined.
Right.
But to start a whole new company, a whole new startup, sometimes you wear different hats every day. Today you wake up, you brainstorm an idea. Tomorrow you get funding. On the third day you talk to customers and different things, right? You do a podcast on one day, for example. Sure. So, and different things. You have to prioritize, limited resources, and you have to wear your engineering hat and all. So we realized that, okay, if you want to start something new, we have to start ourselves, right, this time around, to make sure that it's successful. And by then, we could afford to release ourselves from the existing group because the group was already doing well. And at the time, for example, the education entity was already doing well. It was close to maybe 100,000 paying students at the time. This was around 4 years ago. But obviously, there were face-to-face program, paper-based programs, right? The company were doing well.
Which is the traditional way. People think, it's a traditional way.
So we were not invested. It's not a venture-backed entity, right? We own 100%, even until today, the whole thing, right? But with Pandai, we knew we wanted to do something a bit different. So before we came up with the idea Pandai, we actually toyed around with other ideas, everything from F&B to futsal court to some AI, early stage AI stuff and all that. And then we realized that our competency is in the education technology, and that's where we're more comfortable with. So we decided to do something that combines technology and education, right? And similarly, the technology company, even though we have a software house that does very huge project tenders and exciting stuff, but we have always been developing other people's ideas. We have never built our own stuff like Pandai. We get a requirement from a customer. We list of requirement, we develop for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and then we hand off to them, we get paid, right? With maintenance and all that. But we realized that we have the technical competency, we understand education, what else needs to be done. So that's why we wanted to start Pandai. But Pandai would be different. Not only it's EdTech with technology and all that, but with the existing education company at the time, we realized some of the things that we were doing, some of the more interesting stuff, like when we talk about robotics or coding or earth science or even economics and things like that, because some of the interesting stuff that we were offering were outside of the school syllabus. Unfortunately, the students that come to us for these exciting programs, right, were the elite students or students that come from well-off families or who had parents already had the awareness to expose their kids to this kind of program. Unfortunately, here in the country, when we talk about the masses, right, especially outside of the city areas, the parents' mindset is that if something is not in the exam, my kid shouldn't be spending time on it, right? Whether it's robotic or earth science or economics or music or sport even, right? So we realized that, okay, we wanted to start something for the masses. We want to start introducing something else for the kids, not just stuff in the syllabus, but we are forced to start with something for the masses first. That's why when Pandai first started, he had to incorporate all the core subjects first, the maths, the science, the languages, and things like that. But it has to be done in a fun way to attract the students, right? So that's why Pandai started to tackle the masses, because with the traditional way, we had to charge a lot because it involves, standing materials, involves us going physically to the students' area. With technology, we can actually reach out to the students using technology, right? Not only, monthly or weekly or yearly, like instantaneously, like give out new content, new videos, and we can somewhat democratize, good materials. Like maybe before this, only students who are in good school get access to good material, good teacher, right? Whereas others do not, right? With technology, we can somewhat democratize good material, good teachers, good content, and all that. So that's why Pandai started. We want to help the masses using technology. Obviously, it has evolved a lot, pivoted along the way to what it is now, but that was the initial intention at the time.
But I want to ask you, surely, and you mentioned this before, because people were used to the traditional way of education. Like we talk about the traditional institutions, face-to-face, paper material. So how did you convince your stakeholders or potential investors? How did you communicate, negotiate, and effectively say, actually, this is worth investing in. Actually, this is the technology of tomorrow.
Yep. Okay. Interesting question. Yeah. You're right. That's a challenge, right? We started in January 2020. Pandai started in January 2020. We released our app in the first month quite quickly. It was a very, very simple app, very crude app. It had nothing but just quiz function, just one thing. Now Pandai has like 50, 60 odd features, but at the time it was just quiz, nothing else. And then we were offering quiz, right? It was just 5 questions per day. And then it's just 5 questions per day. It was just quizzes. It was just one language. It was in Bahasa only. And then it was just for Form 5 students only. Because we thought, okay, Form 5 students are sitting for the
So it's
SPM.
very specific. It's a very narrow band.
SPM only. And then it was just math only. And then it was Android only. And then we released the app to see, the demand, the feedback, and all that, right? It was very specific, like you said. Yeah. And then obviously because of demand, then quickly we introduced, other subjects, other grades, other languages, other standards, and even other offerings, right, in Pandai, and then in the other platforms. So now we have iOS and Huawei, even in the web version, even, and use a PCs or laptop or mobile phones and whatever. But we wanted to test out the demand. And what we're saying publicly, right, at the time is that if you go to other places, right, you go to books or website, right, you get everything under the sun, like all the whole syllabus, right, the student can access. But at Pandai, we wanted to inculcate continuous learning. So that's why in Pandai, you get 5 questions per day. If you don't interact with the question at all, they'll be gone by midnight. If they interact with the question, whether they answer correctly or wrongly, they can still refer in the future. So that's what we're saying publicly, right? We want to inculcate studying continuously rather than cramming everything at the end before exam or studying just once every few months. You study every day, 5 questions per day. That's what we're saying publicly.
So you provided an incentive for them to engage with the app and actually have a way to refer to previous questions.
Yeah. By interacting on a daily basis. If not, the 5 questions will be gone by midnight. But internally, what we're doing is that we wake up, say 8 in the morning, among the team, we had no employees yet, is that, guys, we don't have the question to release midnight. So let's come up with a question, the 5 questions we need to release for tomorrow, right? The graphic, the question, the explanation, because we were saying publicly that we want to inculcate continuously, but the intention is that to just launch early, right? If we waited to complete the whole syllabus from, let's say we take math, 1.1 to chapter, 15.5, we would have launched in the first 6 months probably, right? So we wanted to launch early to get the feedback, right? So we had to say, we have the whole thing, but we're releasing 5 questions per day. And then what we learned along the way is that by the 6 months or so, we completed the whole syllabus for 1 year, for example, for that particular grade. We realized that the students are missing out on many of the good content that we're creating, right? So because that, we abolish the only offering that Pandai had in the 6 months from the fleeting quiz, right, into a progress-based quiz. Meaning they can resume whenever they want to, where they left off. Is it like something like Candy Crush, right? They can continue tomorrow or next month or whatever, right? Because the students were missing out. Because we realized that students naturally do not study every day. They study every other day or once a week or every few days. So we do a lot of testing along the way, getting student feedback. Even before we build our first app, right? Because we came from engineering background, all four of us came from engineering background, we try to be a bit analytical in terms of the process, right? So even before we build our app, I mentioned that we launched our app in January, right? Before that, even though it's very specific, right? Before that, we would get a hand-drawn piece of paper of the app on a piece of paper to showcase to the students how the app would be without developing it. So we would stand outside of a school in Danau Kota actually, because we didn't get permission from the school. We would stand outside the gate, waiting for the student to come out at 1 p.m. And then we would show a piece of paper, so that this is an app that we want to build.
So it's kind of like a very rudimentary beta preview of the app, just done on paper.
Yes, and it's very, very important. It's very, very important actually, because you learn a lot way before you start going through the process of developing it and all that. And we learn a lot in terms of the layout, what the student actually want and things like that. Even after we sort of, locked down some of the features that student wanted, and then we drew the wireframe. Obviously we use design software to do that. Even though it was no color yet, we print the wireframe because we didn't want the student to be affected by the color, the gradient. Oh, this looks nice because the layout was okay. Whereas maybe the colors looks good, but the layout was wrong, right? So we would get the feedback from the students and all that. And interestingly, I remember we had color, the corporate color of Pandai now is green. So the app is green, everything is green, right? Or with some blue gradient. But when we first started out, the first ever color for Pandai is actually pink. Pink with a purple gradient. So we had a mock-up of the app in pink and purple and all that. But we would print the design out, and then we would go to students. We went to meet teachers. We went to meet even tuition teachers, and we show the app and all this. For some reason, maybe the education sector is very, very conservative, very traditional in nature. When they see the color, they think it's too, I don't know, LGBT, whatever, too striking. And then, because of that, we changed to green. Way before we develop it, we haven't coded anything yet. And that's the beauty of testing early, getting the feedback and all this, right? So along the way we did that. So some of the learning, some of the analytic method that we did actually goes a long way in helping us not only talking to investors, but talking to customers, the real users as well. Right. So we started in January 2020. Our first investment that we got was actually from a global investor. They are called 500 Global, which is the backers of Grab, backers of Canva, the investors of Canva as well. So they invested in us, the first ever investors, when Pandai was about 1 year and 3 months old. So prior to that, we were using our own money, limited funds, right, to build the app and all that. And that's how we were able to convince the investors. But by then, the investors realized that we understand the space, we understand the users' need, we understand what needs to be done and all that. But everything boils around getting the customers' feedback along the way, try to be analytical to get feedback from the.
But it's clear that you and your team did a lot of your homework. You did a lot of field work.
Along the way.
Because I think that's the first time I heard someone actually showcasing a preview of the app using paper, and you didn't want colors to actually affect the results of the findings. So I thought that was, once again, this has been a theme in sort of your career, your development as a professional, as an entrepreneur, is the attention to detail. You really looked at things and went, actually, this is important. This small little thing that people take for granted, color, we see color every day, but we don't realize the effects it may have on results. And in this case, the fact that you managed to change it for social cultural reasons to green, I think is very indicative of how detailed the homework due diligence has been executed. But I want to ask you now a little bit more about the Pandai app. So now we understand how we got here, how we managed to get to the Pandai app. So the Pandai app features gamification, which means game-like functions for engagement purposes.
Yeah.
So you have a quiz battle, which is clearly an evolution of the original quiz.
Yeah.
So this, the quiz battle is obviously persistent now, and they can participate. And you also have a leaderboard, which is also a gamification. So I want to ask you, Mr. Khairul, also for our viewers and listeners, how did you come up with the gamification idea, and how did you design that?
15, 20 years ago, right, when internet became more accessible, right? Where when everyone started to have their own device, internet connection, all this, for the first time in human history, right? For the first time in human history, all of us, like almost all of us, get access to unlimited knowledge, right?
Yeah.
We can, access blogs or YouTube or website, Wikipedia, and all this. So the barrier to access content is no longer there. You can actually access if you want to do. For example, if I want to learn how to solve Rubik's Cube, maybe like 100 years ago, no one knows how to do it, I have to find someone in the next town, for example, right? Or if I want to see a dinosaur bones, for example, I have to find a museum large enough to have that, right? Maybe not in my country, I have to travel to France to see it, for example, right? Yeah. If I want to learn something, I have to check out a book from the library, right? I cannot access something on the net because it was not there then. So for the first time in human history, suddenly we have knowledge, right? A friend of mine started a renovation company, learned how to do tiling from YouTube, right? So you can learn anything. You want to learn like cooking, for example. Even if you have thermodynamics to guide you, you can just look on YouTube or TikTok or somewhere, right? Very easily. It's a matter of whether you want or you don't want, right? So when building Pandai, it's not about making the content available only. Yes, that's one part. We want to make the content available, accessible in a good format, which is safe for them. But how to make the student actually want to use Pandai? That's the difficult part, and that's why gamification came in. Okay, so the way Pandai works, Pandai is actually a B2C company. So some people thought that, Pandai work with the school or the Ministry of Education, right? Pandai is B2C company. So the intention behind Pandai when we first started is that, okay, the student would go to school like they normally do, right? But after school, instead of using paper-based stuff to do learning or revision, right? They can use Pandai instead, which is more interactive, more fun, more AI, more whatever, right? Yeah. So more effective as well. So that's the intention between Pandai, to replace the revision book, exercise book, and all that. So with Pandai, it's very, very important to attract the student and to keep the students to be using Pandai. And that's why gamification comes in. And we talk about gamification, there are a lot of elements. You mentioned a few things. You mentioned the
quiz battle and the leaderboard,
the
leaderboard,
quiz battle where they can play with another, and then we have leaderboards. Leaderboards meaning they are like ranking, right?
Right,
there's school ranking, there's a district ranking, there's a state ranking, country ranking, there's a monthly ranking, yearly ranking as well. There's also badges that they can collect. There's also coins, trophy, and heart, and some other things there. And then even the coins that they collect, they can convert into tangible vouchers. Everything from Touch and Go to Family Mart to Lazada, Shopee, Grab, Yayao, T-Life, KFC, Starbucks, Zeus, many other rewards. Even game credits as well, like Mobile Legends or Valorant, because those are the things that students want. So they have to collect enough coins in order to convert into those rewards. Obviously, they cannot simply, guess. They cannot simply tembak because they have to get correct answers in order to get the coins, right? You cannot go through by, clicking, simply guessing the answers. So there are many other things as well that they are building their profiling and things like that in Pandai to attract the students, right? There's also streaks where the student have to maintain, accessing the app every single day. So now we have students that have a streak of more than 2 years.
A streak of 2 years, that's incredible.
2 years. So they've been accessing the app every single day, even on festive occasion or when they were not feeling well or weekends or on holiday, they're still accessing Pandai every single day without miss. So those are some of the things that we do in order to attract the student to come to Pandai. So that's a very core component of Pandai as well. So yes, we want to provide the content, make it accessible. We have quizzes, flashcards, topical tests, videos, experiments, simulation, and things like Pandai. But the hard part is how to retain the student. So when in our first year, the retention rate was 60%. So meaning monthly, meaning 40% of our users will no longer use the app in the second month.
Oh, okay.
They will only use the first month, and then not second, only 60% will continue next month. And then when the following one, 60% out of the 60% will continue to use, right? But now our retention rate is around 95%. 95% now. So only 5% or so churn every month. So that's very important in order to sustain our business as well. But more importantly, to get the students to be using it continuously.
Okay, that's a very interesting answer actually, and I'm glad you developed and elaborated more on the gamification. So we can tell now that it's not just important for the students to be engaged, but also for the business model as well, for basically the business to sustain itself. So I understand that for Pandai, when you founded it, that one of your visions was to allow students to achieve their maximum potential, to learn better, to improve their academic performance. Why is it so important to you, Mr. Khairul?
Another similarity that I haven't shared about the four of us, the founders of Pandai, right? Is that all four of us, yes, we went to the same school, we were the same age as well, same batch, right? Yeah. We also had parents who were school teachers ourselves, all four of us, right? And we were lucky, we didn't come from a well-off family, but we had, a teacher in the family that puts importance on education, so we got access to good advice, to good materials at home, and because of that, we got the opportunity to do well in school, and because of that, get to study abroad, get scholarship, get opportunities there that some other students or many other students do not get, right? And we saw firsthand how education can actually transform one's life, right? So, and that's why we realized that it's something that we need to do, especially for the masses. That do not get the same opportunity that we did get, right? So with Pandai, what we're trying to do is a bit different from most other education technology or edtech in short, right? Most other edtechs are doing. We see some of the edtechs, not only from Malaysia, but South Asia, from China, from India, from Europe as well. Many of them previously were doing either content, recorded content like videos or live classes and things like that. But at Pandai, we're more interested in all the interactive stuff, which is a bit different. That's why we started with a quiz, not like videos, like 1 hour long video. Because for us, if a student, we offer 1 hour long video, right? We cannot learn much from the interaction. We don't know whether the student paying attention. We don't know whether the students is learning. We don't know whether the content is helping or not, and things like that. Whereas with interactive stuff, for example, quiz or tests or exam, things like that, or flashcards, right? That we know like if the students understand the content or not, how many attempts they need, how long do they need, and things like that. And then we can pinpoint the strength and the weakness of the students. So one of the key components in Pandai is that it's how Pandai can actually pinpoint the strength and weaknesses of each particular student. In school, like in typical school, students will get report cards, right? You should see report cards. Show the grades.
Or exam scores or test scores.
Right? They show the marks, the grades, right? Which is useful for the student because they know where they are, right? Oh, I get 60% for my math. I get C for my physics, which is, okay, useful. Right. But when we talk to the student, we realize the students are still confused. How exactly they can improve from a C to an A? How to get from 60% to 100%? They know where they are from the report cards, right? And because of the large classroom size in South Asia especially, teachers are not able to give individualized feedback as well, right? Personalized feedback, because too many students, we cannot blame the teachers, right? But with technology, right, we at Pandai, we can actually pinpoint the students' strengths and weaknesses. So in Pandai, when the students interact with our offerings, right, whether the quizzes or the battles or flashcards, the notes and all that, we know how well they're doing in each of the areas. So when we show our dashboard and report cards, and we have report card, scorecard, analytics, profiling and all that, it's not only saying the students, for example, for math, like Sean, you're getting C for physics. We're not telling that. We're telling Sean, yes, you're getting C for physics now, but chapter 1 and 2, you're doing well. Chapter 3 and 4, you're slightly weaker. And chapter 9 is where you
Oh, it's very customized.
Yeah,
okay.
for that particular student, for you, Sean, for example, right? And because of that, Sean knows, oh, yes, I'm getting C now, but chapter 1 and 2, I'm already at A. For chapter 3, 4, I need to brush up, but chapter 9 is where I need to focus on. So we also have recommendation engine. So it's like Netflix that suggests the important topics based on that.
Kind of like an algorithm.
Yeah, some recommended system, right? Some sort of algorithm. So that's the thing that we're more interested in. That's how we're helping the students as well. So now, 92% of Pandai users actually get better grades within just 2 months of using it actively. If they use it for 2 months actively, they get better grades. That's how we're doing something different a bit from most other edtechs out there. Of course, we incorporate AI and things like that. We have our own AI, and in fact, that's how we've been able to secure investment from global investors. We were from Y Combinator, from the US, from Europe, even from Harvard as well. So Harvard actually reached out to us. We didn't study at Harvard. We didn't know anyone there. But Harvard actually sent us an email suddenly after we were about 1 year and probably 8 months into Pandai. Harvard sent an email saying, what you guys doing are interesting. It's interesting. Can we invest? So obviously we accepted the investment, and Harvard owns a small piece of Pandai, so one of our investors as well.
That's very interesting.
So we're very, very, very proud of the things that we've done, but we're more proud of the impact that we've created to the students, especially for the masses.
That's a fantastic sharing. Thank you very much, Mr. Khairul, for that. So for our viewers and listeners, where we have been so far is that we've listened to Mr. Khairul's epic saga, essentially, from Motorola, then to founding Aiden group of companies, and then finally founding Pandai, and sort of using his engineering, using his sense of discovery, his curiosity to learn new things, to have the courage, essentially, to start something completely new, something no one's done yet, and to have the foresight to do the due diligence, the hard fieldwork, the hard groundwork, to actually find out what it is students need, what it is that students require, and not just the elite students, but students from all over, I think, which is very important. So that actually is important because it impacts more people, which is why I think Mr. Khairul feels so passionately about Pandai. And in fact, an important lesson for all of you watching and listening, I hope that you will take Mr. Khairul's journey so far to heart, because it is how you value add. As an engineer, one thing, but also as a professional. And we've heard also how Mr. Khairul has successfully communicated his messaging to potential investors. Now, of course, he has Harvard investing a piece, into his organization, and this could be possible for you in the future as well. Why not, right? Just as long as you aim to make an impact in people's life, a positive value add to a greater society, which is what we hope engineers everywhere do. So, engineering thinkers, I hope you enjoyed this section, which is the highlight. We'd like to thank Mr. Khairul for sharing his professional experience with us. And in the next segment, the creative section, we're going to ask Mr. Khairul about the future. Stay with us. Thank you. Engineering thinkers, welcome back to the program. We're now in the third and final segment of the show, which is the creative section. And this is where we're going to ask our guest a little bit about the future and some of the tips and advice that he can give to all of you so that you can find success in your respective fields, whether it's engineering or just professional life. So, Mr. Khairul, can you tell us a bit about the future of Pandai and where do you think EdTech is headed within the next 5 years?
Yes, we have big ambition at Pandai. When we set up Pandai, we knew that Pandai will not only serve the elite kids and all this, but the masses. Number two, it will not only be in Malaysia, but elsewhere as well. And number three, it will be venture back because we want to grow fast, right? So now Pandai is at a position where we are now serving many students now. We have almost around 1 million registered students. We are no longer in Malaysia only. We launched abroad already in nearby countries, and we're at a position where we can actually explore more for our students. And we talk about future, we want to really help the students. When we talk about really help students, number one, it's we need to help the whole ecosystem as well. Right. So the other stakeholders that revolves around the student education, right? Meaning the parents and teachers. So some time ago, about maybe a year or slightly more than a year ago, parents and teachers actually came up to us saying, yes, for the kids they have Pandai, but for student parents they can register, but maybe just another student doing quizzes, right? So because of the demand, we actually introduced two new modules. One is called Pandai Parent, and the other is Pandai Teacher. So meaning parents can register, have their own ID, and when they log in, they have specific features just for them to help the kids, right? For example, like if I'm a parent, right, I'm a dad of 3, I can take out my phone quickly and I'll see, oh, my first child has completed everything, my second child has started anything today, and my third child is, I don't know, weaker in certain areas. I can click custom reward, things like that. Similarly for parents, there's a lot of tools that help them becoming a better teacher. Self-improvement content, quiz generator, teaching planner, and monitoring the kids, and many other AI stuff as well. So right now, Pandai is doing a lot of interesting stuff in helping the students not only in their current education space, but beyond as well. Like we're in K-12, where we're comfortable at a primary school and secondary school or elementary, high school, right? But the students are not just studying, just want to get A's, right? They want to study because they want to pursue something at university, want to get a good career, good life and all that, right? Not just for collecting A's, right? So that's why in Pandai, we now have something called a student profile or Pandai profile, right? So for us adult, we have our LinkedIn account, or for for researchers, they have Google Scholars, and for example, right? And where we showcase our credential and all that. For students, they have their own Pandai profile. And what's interesting is that when we first started with this profiling, it's more to showcase the achievement, the recognition they get within Pandai, right? Things like their leaderboard, their badges, their achievement, the completion rate, scores, and all that. But now we've already included things like their personality, their hobbies, their ambition as well. And what's interesting is that now we see thousands of students actually scanning their unrelated certificates, right? For example, their singing certificate, their choir Kumon certificate, taekwondo certificates, right? They scan them and upload into Pandai. So Pandai become the depository or the vault to showcase their achievements from year 1 until they finish high school, right? So we've seen thousands of students doing that already, right? So we want to help them, pursue or to find the pathway towards their university or career as well. And that's why we've been working with the psychometric experts at Ministry of Education to come up with a personality test kind of thing, where it discovers the student traits, the characteristic, it lists down all the career based on the student's profile, the learning methods based on that student behavior and things like that. Because unfortunately, without all this, sometimes in school, when two students get the same results, for example, this one get all A's, another person get all A's, and the teacher probably, or the parents or teacher or whatever around them will advise them, okay, both of you have to become engineers. Whereas maybe one is to become doctor, another one to explore, different things, right? Based on their grades and not their, personal characteristic or traits, right? Another thing which is interesting as well is something which is called university matching. If you recall, right, when we're young, right, we sit for the biggest exam in our life, either SPM or JCC or the exam, big exam, right?
A-levels.
A-levels, right? After we get the result already, and it's set in stone, you cannot change already, then only we shop around. What university I can get, what course I can get, what scholarship I can get, right? But at Pandai, we know already how well they are doing in each of the subject. Way before the exam, 6 months before, a year before, or when they were in Form 3, for example, right? Form 4, right? We know how well they're doing each of the subjects, right? And because of that, combining with the profiling and all that, we can actually show with your current results, right? How many matching university, how many matching courses, how many matching scholarship, and we actually list down the universities, they list down all the scholarship that they can get currently while they can still change. And this is very valuable for the masses, because for good student like you, Sean, someone can just give advice, okay, score all A's, right? But for most kids out there, they have to pick and choose a little bit, right? Because with this kind of thing, this visibility, they can see, oh, rather than I focus my effort on, say, geography or some elective subject, it's unrelated to what I want to pursue, right? It's better that I improve, say, my English from C to B, or I get my math to pass, for example, right? And then I get this opportunity. They can see outright. So those are the things that have been developed in Pandai, and all the many things that I mentioned is already released in Pandai now, and students are already using it. So we want to really help the student in this area. So that's why we're working a lot of AI stuff. We introduced a lot of AI features. I don't want to get into technical, but we have our own chatbot and all the personalization and all that. And the things that we're doing in Pandai is very, very interesting and is capturing, the attention of people from outside Malaysia as well. For example, when the chairman and the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, came over to the country to spend less than a day. He, in the morning at around 8 a.m., 9 a.m., he met the Prime Minister in Putrajaya, and then by 11 a.m., he came to meet Pandai in a closed session. So I got to meet, and my team, we got to meet Satya Nadella, the CEO and chairman of Microsoft, in a closed session, talk to him, and then, discuss with him on Pandai and all that. And then in the afternoon, when he announced the $1 billion investment into the country in a huge hall, thousands of people, he even included Pandai in his keynote, which we didn't expect. We knew beforehand that we would meet him, but we didn't know that we would be included in his keynote as well. So, and the same with Jensen from NVIDIA as well. When he came over the country, Pandai was accepted in the global NVIDIA program. So we get a lot of help, not only in terms of assistance in the technical stuff and technology, early access to all the technology, but some of the on-the-ground help as well from Microsoft and NVIDIA. So, and we'll continue to do this, especially in the field of AI. And we just released an AI tool for the teachers as well. So it's very exciting times at Pandai, but we're doing something which is trying to disrupt the way education has been done so far. But obviously, human teachers are still important. We're not replacing teachers, we're not replacing the school. They are still important, but trying to help them in one way or another. So that's some of the things that we've been doing now at Pandai. And hopefully we'll continue to grow and a lot more people can. Another thing, maybe I didn't mention, because we really want to help the masses, right? Yeah. Now, when we look at data, 30.8% of Pandai users actually come from rural areas. 30.8%, which is a surprise because at Pandai you need device and internet. And one of the reasons, of course, we work with some other parties that reach out to the student, but another reason is that we developed an offline mode. So even students with no internet or intermittent access can access some parts of Pandai. So yes, we want to help the student who can afford to pay us, but we want to help the rest as well, if we can.
Okay, so that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Khairul. So you can tell that EdTech is kind of an exciting space to be in right now. Yeah. Because what Pandai is doing is sort of smashing some of the misconceptions people have about education and academic scholastic performance, which I think is important. But also there's the continuous need to want to improve, obviously, the app and the outreach. And obviously having Microsoft and NVIDIA back Pandai says a lot about the belief they have in what it is that the Pandai team is doing. So now I want to ask and tap a little bit on Mr. Khairul's personal experience as an entrepreneur and a leader. Maybe you can share with our viewers and listeners, what are some key skills and what are some tips you will have for, say, a young person still wanting to get into engineering, wanting to start their professional engineering life? What are some skills do you think are crucial to their success?
One, of course, I would highly encourage anyone watching to get into engineering. It's very fulfilling actually, a space to be in. A lot of things that we see around us is a product of engineering, one way or another. It's interrelated with society, with culture, with human behavior and all that. And engineering has always been around, right? Since ancient times, right? From the invention of tools like the wedge, wheel, and pulley, and things like that, even until now. And sometimes it's not highlighted enough, like mentioned, that engineering contributes to a lot of different things, right? And not only about the specific area in engineering that you're in, because engineering is broad, right? For example, I did mechanical engineering, right? Even though I dive into IT and other stuff now, but I did mechanical engineering. But it's not just about like mechanical engineering, about creating machine and tools and mechanisms and all that, but the engineering principles that you get by pursuing engineering, right? The analytical mindset, the problem-solving mindset that you get. We'll try to incorporate a lot of the engineering skills into what we do now, even though I'm no longer an engineer myself, right? I'm an entrepreneur. I create different companies and all this, but we try to incorporate a lot of analytical stuff into what we do. All the user feedback and the way we try to measure our performance as well. Maybe a sidetrack from this a little bit. We incorporate something called OKR. Have you heard of OKR? No. OKR stands for Objective and Key Results. It's something like KPI, but OKR is used by Google for more than 50 years and all that. Right. And we use OKR diligently in our company. So our OKR trickles down from the company to the team to the individuals. Right? We want to monitor the performance. So each individual can see if they complete certain goals, how much the team goal we move, how much the company goal we move, from the individual up to the company. And so much so, we created our own OKR platform. I just want to share how analytical we try to be. When we were in the Eden Group, we created our own OKR tool, which we did not name, right? Because it's just an internal tool just to monitor OKR, even though OKR has been around for a long time. Yeah. And then, in 2020, when we started Pandai as a startup, we actually started another startup called Flowy Team which is a platform just to measure OKR. And we let other people use it. And just in a short period of time, now, I think more than 2,000 organizations from more than 90 countries are already using Flowy Team, even though it's a new platform created by us just to monitor OKR and the tool that we wanted to use ourselves, right? Yeah. And, so even companies like SAP, IBM, or Deloitte, or Jaguar, or Oracle, or Dyson, Adobe, and all, they are using our OKR tool or the insight from our OKR tool in order to help their organization as well. So we're very analytical, and a lot of this come from our background in engineering. So it will help you a lot in whatever you do, not just creating businesses, but in solving general problem in any assignment, project, or ventures as well. So engineering is a very good platform if you want to pursue it. And on top of that, I would highly recommend anyone who's pursuing engineering or already have engineering background to also complement with the soft skills. And that's why when I decided to do my master's, I did MBA, which is Master of Business Administration, right? To complement my technical skills. And even before that, I did economics as well at my university. So to complement the technical hard stuff with more management stuff, right? So, and now I'm actually doing my DBA, which is a doctorate in business administration. To equip myself with more, skills that revolve around management. And something that I did not mention, I actually did a 2-year course in big data. Data analysis.
Big data analysis.
So data engineering and data science as well. So it was a 2-year course that I did in 2018, 2019. So that's a bit technical, but I complement with MBA and DBA and things like this as well. So I would highly encourage you to complement yourself with all these skills. And maybe just to share, I believe, right, if you want to be an entrepreneur, right, you want to start something, right, there are many skill set in business. You need to know, marketing and sales and accounting, right, and operation and strategy and all this. But I believe there's one skill which is very, very important as a founder, right? And that skill, for me personally, is the skill to convince others to join your cause. And that's very, very important, especially when you're starting out. Because when you're new, you have all this vision, you have to find a way to get people to join your cause, not only as your employees, as your partner. Yes, that's one thing. Yes, investors as well, and then as customers as well, as vendors as well. For example, you want to do a deal with a big corporation like Disney. You're a small company, but how do you convince them to say, hey, we are not that level yet, but we need you, and with your help, we can achieve this, and maybe the payment term should be a bit different. There'll be some kind of exception with this. And same with recruiting employees as well. So we're lucky at Pandai. It's not because of the founders alone, because we have a great team behind Pandai. And we have people that we hired that we actually couldn't afford. We have people who were at a salary close to 20,000 ringgit per month, for example. And at the time, in our first year, we could only afford 3,500 ringgit. But that person decided to join us. Because of the potential, without promise of equity, without promise of higher salary, but the person joined us and transformed the whole company. And obviously, within a short period of time, we we now can actually give what the person actually deserves, right? So we're not taking advantage, but we're trying to get some people who can afford it. Sometimes when we're doing business, we find people, as we were starting out, right? We find good people, but we're shy or too embarrassed to get the people to join us. Like for example, like we have a neighbor who just got back from London, studying there or do a 5-year job there, and then we're starting out. That person will never want to join us. But the people that we are too shy to approach are exactly the people that we need. Exactly the people that we need to approach, that we need in order to help us grow. Because alone we can do so little, but together we can do a lot more. We need brilliant people in order to create brilliant solutions, right? So if you're going into entrepreneurship, try to learn. I was a nerd myself, a shy boy myself, even after I finished, high school. But I have to reinvent myself somewhat in order to help me with whatever I'm doing, right? So all the best to whoever is watching.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khairul, for all your tips there. Some very important advice, right? Obviously, don't just focus on the technical aspects. Of course, that's always going to be important. That's always going to be a given, especially if a lot of you are going to be joining the technical fields when you graduate. But Mr. Khairul is talking about a balance, the equilibrium between soft skills and hard skills. Very important. You still need to be able to communicate, collaborate, work in teams, and negotiate positions. Educate people. I mean, Pandai is all about education, but also education is not just about learning and academic performance, also educating stakeholders, right? And Mr. Khairul, in the second segment, spent a lot of time talking through about how he convinced people, not just to join his organization, but to invest, to believe in the message that Pandai is trying to communicate. So I believe these are the important lessons that all of you definitely need to remember for the future. Now, for this last question for Mr. Khairul is a bit more of a fun one. So we know Mr. Khairul is a very busy leader, entrepreneur, and so he doesn't have time because he's busy with the Pandai app. So now what we're going to do is we're going to ask Mr. Khairul if we cloned him as he was right now with all the experience, all of his resources available, we're going to ask him what would the original Mr. Khairul tell Mr. Khairul number 2 to go and invest in or to create, because we know he loves creating business. It's very apparent from today's program. So I'm very curious to see what he's going to answer here.
Okay, because usually people will ask something like along the lines of, okay, what will you tell your younger self and things like that, right? Yeah. Obviously, okay, then okay, you pursue this and that. Yeah. But if there was another me, which is very interesting, probably in the upcoming few years, the technology make it possible.
Yeah,
clone human, right?
Yeah.
If that person has the same experience, the same knowledge, the same skill set, the same capabilities, I would encourage that new me to pursue another huge problem in a space which is non-related to education, obviously, because I'm already tackling education, right, in my own limited ways. So he should be working on something else. Use his experiences, the engineering, background, the business acumen, the ability that he has to solve another big problem. If I were to pinpoint a specific area, let me think. I think it's a bit hard to pinpoint now, but I think I would suggest to start another business revolving around solving a very huge problem. So it could be something totally unrelated, like what Elon Musk is doing, something with Mars, something with underground internet, with
basically as long as it's separate from education, right?
It's separate from education, right? And obviously a lot of discovery phase has to be gone through, and with a lot of user feedback and understanding the first principle angle of the problems and all that. But I guess along those lines, I want to remind him that anything he does has to be not only meaningful, it has to create impact, and more importantly, something that he would enjoy as well. Because if you're doing something, yes, you can do a lot of different things about environment or sustainability or solving problems in education. But if that is something you're not enjoying, you won't want to wake up every morning and thinking about this, right? And work on this, for a long period of time, right? So it has something that he enjoys as well, and because of that, you will be willing to be spending time on this, and then you're passionate enough to find ways, because starting a business is very, very difficult, right? Lonely journey as well. Sometimes you have to show a confidence face. Sometimes even you have problems, you don't want to lose face. You say, oh, everything is okay, even to your employees, right? To keep the confidence up, the employees from from leaving you, or facing problem and all that, and so it's important for him to enjoy the process, and along the way, hopefully, create the impact that he wants.
I think that's a fantastic answer. Of course, I don't think any of us here are surprised, especially our viewers, that Mr. Khairul would choose to start another business, obviously, and to solve a big problem, whatever. It could be energy, it could be...
I just want to say that I don't know who the viewers will be from, right? If you're from Malaysia, for example, where I'm from, even though, from Malaysia, we do not have a lot of success story in terms of unicorns like startups and all that, not many yet, right? It is actually possible for, a guy like me from a humble background, right, to with a group of childhood friends to create something with serving local needs, from local founders serving local needs initially, to get recognition at the global stage, right? So getting investors from abroad, getting recognition from abroad, and creating solution that's impacting people globally as well. So if you have any inclination to solve problem, you don't have to start business. You can be working for somebody else. But if you you want to do something, go for it, and I'm sure you create an impact.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. Khairul. That is a very good statement to end on, and so we've actually reached the conclusion of section 3, which is the creative section, and so just stay with us as we make our closing remarks. Thank you. Engineering Thinkers, thank you very much for joining us on another great episode. We hope that you learned a lot from Mr. Khairul from the Pandai app. And also, we'd like to obviously say a very big thank you to Mr. Khairul for taking time out of his, no doubt, very busy schedule to come enlighten us about his journey in engineering to entrepreneurship. And I hope that you take his advice and lessons to heart and find success in your fields. I also like to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to MMM Group Berhad, who has hosted this show and has also provided the production and the wonderful staff and team that look after us very well, and we are greatly appreciative. Without their help and support, the show would not be possible. So thank you very much for joining us, and always remember, Engineering Thinkers, we sign off with this special message. Greater engineer,
greater world. Hi, hello Engineering Thinkers. If you're thinking about pursuing engineering, go for it. It's very, very fulfilling. And it's a way for you to create impact in this world and to the society as well. If you're already engineering, make sure that you enjoy yourself, find a niche or area that you're really passionate in, and probably problems you want to solve, and keep updating yourself with something new, always learning, because learning never stops. Enjoy yourself along the way as well. All the best to you. Greater engineer, greater world.
Hello Engineering Thinkers, thank you for joining us in our program today. We'd like to invite you to like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and also follow us on our other platforms such as Buzzsprout, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. The links for all those will be in the description below. Thank you very much for joining us for this episode, but we have so much more planned for you, so make sure you don't miss out on exciting guests and topics to come. Cheers!